Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review, we are looking at NECA's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Interest Story. This is the new April O'Neil. The last one was met with some mixed reviews, let's say. Some people didn't like the way it looked. They've corrected those problems, kind of, for this figure, and I think this figure has a whole slew of its own issues. So it's like, it's gonna be better in some ways and not better in others. Unfortunately, I don't have the old one to compare it against anymore, but we will review this figure in its entirety so you'll be able to decide for yourself. So let's go ahead and get it off the stand and take a closer look. Before we hop into the meat and taters, let's take a look at my package. On the front, we just have some artwork of the turtles watching and Splinter watching April on TV. Cartoon style-ish, not exactly, but kind of close. On the side, just that retro packaging, nothing special. And on the back, some photos and a little bit of cartoon work going on there. Some other figures you can pose the figure against if you want to, and a little bit of story there. It does have a flap, which is nice. I think it shows the figure, which is good, I guess, if you like that. And then, of course, you can see the figure itself right here, which I know that's what most people really like, is being able to see a good-looking figure through the window. Okay, there's the packaging. I have fulfilled my obligations. Let's move on to the review. This figure stands just a touch over 15 centimeters to the top of her hair. It's going to be just a touch under 6 inches, so I don't know what scale it is for these cartoon turtles exactly. It doesn't really matter. Probably good enough to 1/12 scale, let's say, because there's Darwin, and he's a little undersized for the actual character. Okay, that's fine. Let's do a quick question of the day. If you are collecting these NECA Ninja Turtles figures, the cartoon ones in particular, how much do you care about articulation? Or are these really just for the shelf appeal because they look like the cartoon? Let me know what your ratio is. For me, it's like 70-30 aesthetic to articulation. I don't care as much for these. I don't plan to be posing them very much, but they do look cool. And so that's what I'm leaning towards, 70%. All right, there you go. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Let's dive into the aesthetic. This figure, well, it's a yellow figure, and yellow is not easy to paint, unfortunately. And NECA does do painting, so that's a thing we're gonna have to talk about. And there's also some white on here, also difficult to paint. It's not the best looking figure all around. The black line work, let's start with that, I guess. It's not bad. In some places it's not perfect, but it's pretty clean. It's mostly what you would come to expect for a figure like this. It's usually a lot cleaner than this, but the figures are usually a lot bigger and have less curves in cloth and stuff like that, so I don't hate that it's not perfect on this figure. It is mostly good, and from a distance it'll look fine, but it does get a little messy in some places around her boobages and whatnot, so it's not great. Same thing with the belt. It does sort of lack a little bit of finesse that NECA usually has in the paint job. So they do have little bits of extra paint in there to bring it to life. I'm not sure it's really enough. Then for the boots, I don't know how well it's going to show up on camera because they are bright white, but you can see yellow plastic poking through because the white's not quite opaque enough. And even then, the black line work isn't as exceptional as it normally would be, so not the best looking thing ever. She does come with her little watch. That's technically, I guess, an accessory because it can come off. Skin tones, they're okay. They seem to match throughout well enough, so that's alright. It is a separate piece in there. I think maybe they could have added some black paint to hide that seam of the plastics a little bit, because that's not the best looking thing either. So far, we're not exactly hitting a home run. Let's see how the head looks. It's okay. I still don't think it's really the cartoon April. It's not bad. It doesn't look quite right to me, especially with the heavy eye makeup, but it's good enough. It's fine. It's certainly not too big. A lot of people were complaining about that when the first one came out. I do think they did a decent job with the paint job on the hair, but as far as the head size goes, it's much better than before. However, this time her neck is just really long. And I know oftentimes women have long necks, but this is, or longer necks, I should say, than men. But it's pretty long. It stands out. It's mostly, I think, an optical illusion because of the V-neck, the low-cut shirt. But it's pretty long. If you look at the top of her shoulder to where her chin is, it's pretty darn long. And I think it's actually, let me grab the packaging. I always said it too far away. I think this might show it if I remember correctly. Like, that kind of gives you the idea of how long her neck is. Look where her shoulder strap is. Look how far up her head is. Now, you might not notice that in some posing, but it's definitely a long neck. So I don't know, like, is it better looking than the first release? Probably. Kinda. I don't know. I'm not sure it's actually better. It's just different, I'm gonna say. So that's a bit of an issue. We do have the two-tone paint. The mustard yellow is just not an attractive color, let's say. So there's nothing they could do about that, but it's just, I don't know. I think a little bit more vibrancy. Vibrancy. I always need to look that up because I'm not sure. Whatever. I think it's just vibrance. It's a little dull looking for me. I think April should be a little bit brighter. They did do a good job back here, but it's just not, I'm not even talking about the mustard. I'm talking about this part, which is just a lighter mustard. There's something about this that is just an unappealing look for me. I'm curious what you guys think about that. But for the aesthetic, I'm only going to give it a 6 out of 10. This isn't really as well executed as they normally are. Now for accessories, of course, NECA did do that well. We have 3 different heads. We have the neutral head that comes on here in the package. We have a smiling one, and then the masked up one, or whatever you want to call that, blindfolded. Those all look really nice for hands. We have the 2 gripping hands that come on her in the package, then a whole slew of other hands, everything you could possibly ever want. We do get her camera and her voice recorder and a spare microphone. Very nice accessories there, very well detailed. We have her turtle communicator, which does open and close and is very nicely detailed as well. We have the restraint thingy, which opens up and closes around her very nicely. That's a good accessory. Then we have a whole other batch of accessories. A lot of these are things from other figures that have been re-released with this one, but they're all very, very nicely executed, from the piranha plant to the photo to the book to the little xenomorph to everything. It's very, very nicely executed. So accessory wise, 10 out of 10. Really, really good accessories. Very pleased with that. And now it's time for the articulation. Will this thing pose well enough to make up for the lack of aesthetic, which is usually the opposite for NECA? Well, it's a double ball peg for the head, but they put little nubbins on the ball itself, and so the head really wants to fight. You can get it into poses, and I don't think that double ball peg will break, but it doesn't like going where you want it to go. It snaps back a lot of the time. Range of motion is also very limited on this release. It's not fun to handle, honestly. So far, let's see if maybe some of the other joints are better. For the shoulder, we can get up to just shy of horizontal, and you get your full rotation, not counting where the suit flares out, and that's hard plastic. Hard-ish, hard PVC. Double jointed elbow is not the best looking type of elbow. On an outfit like this, it's potentially okay, but here's what really, really ruins it. They needed to have that hinge in the yellow, in the cloth. Having that little nubbin of flesh tone sticking out and then going up makes this look really freaky. That is not what human arms look like at all. It's not hidden by the clothing, so that's hideous. That's one of the ugliest things I've ever seen on an action figure, short of the recent Halo figures. That could have easily been hidden if the joint was farther up toward the yellow, or if the yellow came farther down, but they decided to give you a nubbin, an elbow nubbin, with the arm afterwards. Not a good look. It does rotate at both ends, but that elbow is hideous. All right, and then for the wrist, you get a swivel and a hinge. Let's see how the diaphragm works on this figure. Should have plenty of range. Oh no. Oh no. It doesn't have very much. Like, it's there, but doesn't do a whole lot. Side to side's pretty good, and of course you get your rotation, but leaning forward and back is pretty limited, and it's also pretty floppy. Oh no. This is not that much of an upgrade, is it? If at all. All right, for the hips, you can get them out pretty far to the side. I'm kind of forcing it a little bit. I'm not seeing any cracking or anything, so that's good, but you can get almost full on splits. This one doesn't want to go quite as far. I think it might just be the way the internals are adjusted. But yeah, it's pretty good range there. Not super loose either. Going forward, you're not going to get much farther than that because of the shape of the diaper. It doesn't let the leg go any farther. Going back, you get just a tiny bit. Thigh swivel, a little bit, not much. Double jointed knee, should be fine. Yeah, it's fine, no problem there. Proportioning is good, it's always a good test. Now, women and men aren't exactly the same for the proportioning, but it's a fair enough test to kind of get that ratio. All right, and then bringing the foot back, does get good range going back, and no range really going forward, and the ankle rocker is kind of crooked. It doesn't pose very well, guys. The articulation on the thing is gonna get a 6. It's not good. It's not particularly good. And yeah, you can justify it saying, okay, it wasn't meant to pose well, fine, but it's still a 6, and you can accept that, but it's still not higher than a 6. All right, so now it's time for the final verdict on this release. Normally NECA leans into the aesthetic and the accessories, and we can let the articulation go by the wayside as long as it can pose well enough. This figure barely can pose well enough. I mean, I guess it's good enough for April, so that's okay. but the accessories are good, but the aesthetic just isn't there, really. And I mean, I guess personally you can make the argument, well, it's April, she's not going to be the focal point of the turtle display, she just needs to be good enough. And I guess that's what this is. It's just good enough, but it could have very easily been very much better. So the only thing that really stands out to me would be the accessories. Those look nice. The figure itself, blah. Articulation, blah. I'm going to give this thing an overall rating of 6 out of 10. It's just not there. I guess, again, technically it'll be just good enough to stick on the shelf and have April on the display with the turtles, but I'm not going to want to look at it. It's going to be off to the side probably. So that's my thought. Let me know what you guys think about it in the comment section below. But thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please do give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. And if you haven't subscribed, you should. I have new videos almost every single day and thousands already on the channel. So make sure you come back for all of that. And in the meantime, keep collecting.